Thank you. Yeah, I think as Luke mentioned, I think I see a lot of new faces as well, right? But anyway, welcome. This is where I normally stand. Okay, as Luke mentioned, this is the beginning of the first, in fact, talk of a new series called Origins. And I mean, there are 4 talks in this series. And what this series looks at is really the origin of iconic images in art history, right? Such as the Buddha image, right? The image of Christ and the nude. Okay, but other than looking at the origin, right, he also traces the evolution and the development of these images. Okay, and also how contemporary artists interpret or reinterpret, right, these images. Okay, so we're going to look at all these aspects, right, in this particular series. So today's talk is focused on the Buddha image. Of course, if you are Buddhist or if you have some knowledge of Buddhism, I suppose it makes it easier to understand. But nonetheless, I'll try my best to provide you with some background, right, so that you can actually understand, the art of this particular religion. And in order to do that, I have to briefly tell you about the life of the Buddha. And now the Buddha was born in what is today Nepal. Okay, in about, I believe, the 6th century BC. Okay, or they like to use the abbreviation now called BCE, before the Common Era. Right? And he was born into a princely family. Right, he was the son of a local ruler. So that made him a priest. And anyway, his father, had planned for him to be his successor, right? And so his father did everything he could, okay, to, for example, shield the Buddha from learning about, religion, okay, or about human suffering, okay. But one day, the Buddha sort of went outside the confines of the palace, and he came across, right, 4, I would say, types of condition, right, human condition. Okay, the first one is, of course, the sick, and then you have the aged, and then he came across a corpse, and also a holy man. Okay, so from this particular experience, okay, he has decided, right, that perhaps he wanted to become an ascetic in order to look for the answer, okay, to the human condition or to human suffering. Now this particular slide shows you a very famous, it's actually a medallion, okay, a medallion that used to be part of what you call a stupa. Now stupa is actually a Buddhist monument, okay, that house the relics and the remains of the Buddha and his disciples. Okay, and on this medallion, which is about 19 inches in diameter, it tells the story of Queen Maya's dream. Okay, because the Buddha was conceived miraculously, or what you call the Immaculate Conception. Okay, so the virtuous Queen Maya, okay, dreamt that a white elephant, okay, which is the Buddha, okay, entering her sight, okay, as you can see, and while she's actually sleeping, okay, and she's attended to by 2 of her attendants, okay, at the foot, on the side of a bed, and you'll find also a lampstand, okay, at the foot of the bed. Okay, so this was, I suppose, a kind of a miraculous moment, okay, when the Buddha, as a white elephant, entered, right, the sight of, Queen Maya. It's a very well composed work, if you can see, I mean, there are quite a number of figures here, but yet, it doesn't seem so crowded, right, in terms of the composition. And, the details are there as well, like, the jewelry on Queen Maya, etc. So to continue the story, so the Buddha decided, now he had a wife, he was married, and I believe he had one child. Okay, so but he decided to leave everything behind, okay, and sought life as an ascetic in the forest. Okay, so he left the palace in what is known as the Great Departure. Okay, and on the right you see an example of a relief sculpture depicting the Great Departure. Okay, and it seemed that during this time the gods, in fact, mouthed the hoofs of the horses so that the Buddha can in fact leave the palace, in the stealth of the night. Right? So I suppose the people, you see some figures there, lifting up the hoof of the horses, right? That's probably part of that kind of the divine help that he received. Okay, and when he went, he spent about 7 years as an ascetic, right, in the forest. I mean, he practiced austerities under, I believe, 2 teachers. Okay, and he did extremities or austerities like fasting. Okay, so on the left you see quite a realistic depiction of the fasting Buddha from Gandhara. Okay, and he found that these austerities didn't help him to find the answer or the truth. Okay, so he decided to then spend 49 days, right, under the Bodhi tree. Now, it's called a Bodhi tree. It's actually a bow or fig tree. Okay, the Bodhi tree means enlightenment. Bo tree means enlightenment, right? So he spent 49 days under the Bodhi tree. Okay, now this particular relief sculpture from Borobudur, right, shows the Great Tonsure. Now, the Great Tonsure was the moment when the Buddha shaved off his head to become an ascetic. Right? Okay, but as I mentioned, he didn't find any solution, so he decided to then meditate under the Bodhi tree for 49 days. Oh, I forgot to mention that, the Buddha, the word the Buddha is a title, it's not his name. Right? It means the enlightened one. Okay? His family name is actually Gautama. Okay? Right? Siddhartha Gautama. Or he's also known by the kind of honorific title Shakyamuni, meaning sage of the Shakyas, because he belonged to the Shakya clan. Right? Okay, so what happened? 49 days, okay, was under the Bodhi tree, and he was assaulted by the evil one, Mara. Okay, but those temptations and attacks, right, didn't succeed. Okay, and finally he achieved what you call enlightenment. Okay, after 49 days. Okay, and upon enlightenment, he had found the solution to life's problems and sufferings. Okay, and this is now enshrined in what you call the 4 Noble Truths. Right? That the first noble truth is that there's suffering. Right? Suffering is caused by desire. Okay, the third noble truth is that desire can be overcome. Okay, and the 4th noble truth is that desire can be overcome by following the Eightfold Path. Okay, the Eightfold Path is things like right action, right speech, right understanding, etc. Okay, there are 8 of these. Okay, and for the next, I think about 40 to 50 years, the Buddha went, proceeded to preach, okay, this doctrine. Okay, and he also began to form a monastic community. Okay, and finally, of course, he had to die like all humans, right? And and that's what you call the Great Release. Okay, Parinirvana, the Great Release. Okay, where he died, and he entered into Nirvana. Right now, don't confuse this term Nirvana and enlightenment. Okay, now the Nirvana is when you actually, it's a extinction or release from earthly existence. Okay, you'll not be reborn. Okay, there won't be any sort of cycle of birth and rebirth. Right, it's an extinction of desire. Okay, a release from suffering and earthly existence. Okay, that's the term Nirvana. Now, and the Buddha, he didn't sort of claim to found a religion. Okay, and he didn't claim to be a god. Right? And in fact, his early followers regarded him as an earthly teacher, as a human teacher. Right? So in early Buddhism, the Buddha is represented not figuratively, but through symbols. Okay? And another reason is that through symbols, perhaps because he had also achieved enlightenment. Right? So, you know, the human body is now, you know, is gone, it's extinct. Right? It was only later on, I'll talk about that you know, when there are other doctrines that, you know, changed Buddhism, that, you know, the Buddha image, in fact, appeared. Now, this now the word aniconic means, you know, what you call the symbolic representation, right? That means in non-human form, okay, as opposed to iconic. Okay, so this is aniconic, and I'm going to show you some examples. And in order to understand some of this early Buddhist art, you know, you have to you know, understand some of the symbols, okay, that were used in early Buddhist art. Okay, now this is a very finely crafted capital, right, dating back to the you know, to the Mauryan dynasty. Okay, in fact, it was a capital that was you know, part of you know, this pillar. Okay, because King Ashoka. Now, King Ashoka was one of the great early Buddhist king. Right, he's a Mauryan ruler. Okay, and you know, he was converted to Buddhism when during one battle he witnessed the death of 100,000 people, and he decided that, you know, there's enough bloodshed. Okay, and he decided to convert to Buddhism and spread the Buddhist Dharma, okay, teachings throughout his kingdom. Okay, and I believe he also sent out missionaries, okay, you know, to countries outside India. Okay, so King Ashoka did quite a bit, you know, to spread Buddhism, right, throughout the world. So this was originally part of a column or pillar, and now it shows, as you can see there, 4 lions. Okay, and lions, you know, the lion is an important symbolism of early Buddhism, right? Now, the 4 lions symbolize the Buddha as a lion among men, okay, among religious leaders. Okay? And the fact that it faces the 4 directions, okay, signify the fact that, you know, the lion's roar is equated to the Buddha's sermon, you know, spreading, right, across the 4 directions. And the lions stand on an abacus. Okay, and on the abacus you'll find, you know, the wheel. You can see the wheel there, right? And alternating with the wheel are the 4 animals or the 4 directions. Okay, the lion, the bull, the horse, and the elephant. Right? And the wheel itself, okay, will assume a lot of importance in early Buddhist art. Right? It symbolizes the teachings of the Buddha, right? When he actually set the wheel in motion, right? It's called turning the wheel of the law. Okay, and now at the bottom you'll find a kind of a lotus, right? Capital representing purity. Okay. Now I don't know whether, you know, the wheel looks familiar to you. Does it look familiar to you, the wheel? Okay, where do you find the wheel? On the Indian flag. Precisely. Okay, so this is the famous, what you call the Sanas capital, okay, or the lion capital. Now, much of early Buddhist art can be found on this architectural structure, you know, called the stupa. Right? It's actually a monument, as I mentioned earlier, which contained the relics and remains of the Buddha and also his early disciples. Okay, and it was said that King Ashoka actually built 84,000 of these stupas throughout his kingdom. Now, the most well-known, and I suppose it's, you know, because it's the most well-preserved stupa, okay, is this particular one at Sanchi. I don't have the caption there, but Sanchi, right? S-A-N-C-H-I. Okay, and now the Sanchi stupa, as you can see, is in the shape of a hemispherical sort of a dome. It is solid, right? So you can't enter, right, the stupa. Okay, and what worshippers do is that they will do a kind of a circumambulation, okay, walking clockwise, following the direction of the sun. Okay. And now you'll find certain features there, like the gateway called the Torana, okay, the anda or the dome itself, okay, the Vedika, the railing, and on top you have the yasti, and you can see like a kind of a 3 discs or umbrellas, okay, and that 3 discs or umbrellas, okay, represents, right, the kind of, the Buddha himself, the law, the Buddhist law, and the Sangha. Now the Sangha is the Buddhist community, right, or the monastic community. Right, this is a closer look at one of the Torana. Okay, you'll notice that, again, this particular gateway, okay, was actually carved out of stone, okay, but it follows the tradition of wood carving or ivory carving, okay, and you find there, animal figures as well as human and I suppose mythical figures, okay, but you will not find representation of the Buddha here. Okay, so recurring animals include the lion, the elephant, okay, for example, and also this figure is known as the Yakshi, okay, and also its male counterpart called the Yaksha. Okay, now the Yakshi is actually a kind of a fertility or a tree spirit. Okay, and here it forms a very elegant bracket. Okay, and it's said that by her touch, right? Okay, the tree will bear fruit. Okay, so because she symbolizes fertility. Okay, and she stands in what we call a tree banga, a kind of a tree body bend pose. Okay, and this was to be very influential on later Indian sculpture. Okay, the kind of tree body bends pose. Okay, and also her kind of her voluptuousness as well, again because she symbolizes fertility. Okay, so you have these kinds of figure, right, on the early Buddhist monument, but you will not find, okay, an image of the Buddha, okay, at least not yet. Now, early Buddhist art also depict the former lives of the Buddha. Okay, and these former lives, I believe he had about 500 former lives. Okay, and in order to reach nirvana, you have to have that cycle of birth and rebirth. Okay, before you can actually reach nirvana. And in some of these former life, he appeared as animals. Okay, and in one episode, he appeared as what they call the golden stag. Right, and now actually this is I believe a kind of a medallion as well. Okay, in another stupa at Barut. Okay, that's another famous stupa. But that stupa has, is no longer intact now. Okay, and you'll find about 3 or 4 scenes taking place simultaneously here. Right, you'll find right at the center, that's the Buddha as the golden stag. Okay, but at the foreground you'll find a figure riding on a deer. That's also the Buddha because he saved a man. Okay, perhaps from drowning. Right? But instead of, I suppose, having gratitude, he actually ordered one of the king's bowmen to shoot the stag. Okay, on the right you can see the bowman trying to kill the stag. Okay, but then the golden stag, began to preach the doctrine of non-violence. Okay, and as you know, the concept of non-violence or ahimsa, okay, is central to Buddhism and also to Hinduism. Okay, I have to say that Buddhism borrowed some concepts as well from Hinduism. Okay, so he began to preach the doctrine of non-violence, and he managed to convert the king. Okay, so the king there is, paying devotion and homage to the golden stag. Okay, so here again, the Buddha has not appeared in human form yet. Okay, what's missing in this relief, of course, is the Buddha himself. But what you see again here is that the Buddha is again represented by the tree, okay, the Bodhi tree, okay, and the empty throne, right? The empty throne symbolizing the fact that he actually renounced his princely life, right? Okay, I mean, it could also perhaps symbolize the royalty of the Buddha as well. Okay, and it also shows, now the title is The Attack of Mara. So you see Mara, you know, who is the evil one, or what you call the Lord of the Senses, okay, you know, and his minions attacking the Buddha. Okay, and he even sent actually 3 of his daughters to seduce the Buddha, right, but to no avail. Now things began to change. Okay, now the oldest form of Buddhism, okay, or the earliest form of Buddhism is what you call the Theravada, or it's also known as the Hinayana, right, Buddhism. Okay, and it was in fact given this derogatory term, right? It's actually a derogatory term given by the other sect. Okay, and so it's also known as the lesser vehicle. Okay. And this form of Buddhism, in fact, reveres the Buddha as a mortal teacher. Okay, mortal, but, I mean, supreme, but still mortal teacher. Okay, and it, in fact, even today, right, it remains faithful to the original teachings of the Buddha. Okay, and today you'll find Hinayana or Theravada Buddhism, notably in Southeast Asia, okay, and also in Sri Lanka. And he also tended towards doctrinal conservatism. So it's a more conservative form of Buddhism. In fact, before the Buddha passed away, you know, he told his disciples that you have to work out your own salvation, okay, through your own diligence. Okay? Not through the help of any other gods, okay, but through your own diligence. And it takes as its ideal the Arhat. Okay, now this term, the Arhat, is someone who has achieved enlightenment. So now, you know, to understand how the Buddha image developed, okay, it just didn't happen overnight. Okay, it was in response to certain developments in Buddhism. Okay, and so what happened was that you have, you know, the Buddhist religion, right, began to split. Okay, so you have the Hinayana or Theravada on one side, and then the Mahayana, okay, or the greater vehicle on the other. Okay, so the greater vehicle or Mahayana Buddhism treats the Buddha as, you know, as an earthly manifestation of a celestial Buddha. That means it sees the Buddha as just one of many hundreds of other Buddhas, past or future, right? And it takes as its ideal. Okay, unlike the Hinayana, who takes the Arhat as its ideal, it takes as its ideal the Bodhisattva, right? Now the Bodhisattva, unlike the Arhat, okay, is someone who is on the verge of achieving enlightenment, but forgoes that in order to lead others, okay, to enlightenment. And not only that, but he shares his accumulated merit as well, okay, with others. Okay, so that's the difference between the Bodhisattva and the Arhat. Okay. And Mahayana Buddhism was to be extremely influential. I mean, it was later on to spread to China, to Tibet, okay, to Japan. Okay. And it was to branch out into other Buddhist sects like, of course, Zen. Then you have the Pure Land Buddhism in Japan, okay, Shingon, some of the esoteric sects. Okay, and you know, and these sects really expanded the Buddhist pantheon. So you're wondering, you know, how come today, you know, there are so many hundreds of other Buddhas, right? It's because of the development of Mahayana Buddhism, okay, which acknowledge the existence, okay, of, you know, many other Buddhas beside the historical Buddha. Now, this is arguably the earliest Buddha image. Okay, but before that, okay, the Buddha image, you know, there's no doubt that it originated in India, right? And it originated at the time of the Kushan Empire. Okay, now the Kushans were people from Central Asia. Okay, and this particular empire was centered in Mathura, in north-central India, and Gandhara, right, in what is today Pakistan, or northwest Pakistan. Now, this is arguably the earliest image, okay, that probably in existence, okay, which is actually depicted on a coin, okay, called the coin of King Kanishka, right? And what you see there is the front and the obverse, right? So on one side, you'll see King Kanishka on the left, okay, and he holds a scepter, he has flames coming out of his shoulder, okay, he's actually making a sacrifice on the fire altar. Okay, again, we see the influence of other religions, like perhaps the Persians, okay, I mean, using fire, you know, as part of an act of ritual. Okay, so that's on the left. Okay, and on the right, you know, that's what is, you know, now thought to be the earliest Buddha image. Okay, so clearly you see a figure there, and that figure has all the attributes that we are to see later, okay, on the Buddha image. Okay, now these are known as the Lakshanas. Okay, I'll come to that, okay, in a while. Okay, so you see this figure wearing a monastic robe, okay, having what you call an Ushnisha, okay, a bump on the head, okay, representing his super spiritual wisdom. Okay, he also, I mean, the robe itself is called a Sangati, okay, and he has a halo, okay, and also elongated earlobes. Anyone knows why the Buddha is normally seen with elongated earlobes? Rachel? Okay, thank you. You have to know that because Rachel is actually guiding at ACM. Okay. So next time you go to ACM, right, you can look for her. Anyway, Rachel is one of my current master students. Right? Okay, and in Greek, right, there's a word there called, okay, Bodo, okay, which is translated probably as the Buddha. Okay, and another thing is that he makes, if you look at his hand, his right hand, he makes a gesture. Okay, those are what you call mudras, hand gesture. Okay, there are many different types of hand gestures. Okay, this particular one is called Abhaya Mudra, meaning the gesture of fearlessness. Okay, and now that's an image on a coin. Okay, but when was the first really three-dimensional, okay, image of the Buddha emerge? Okay, and there's some debate about this, and the debate still continues. Okay, no one really has a definite answer. Okay, but you have scholars on both sides, you know, and of course, you know, you have Indian scholars, okay, who are very much in favor of the view that, you know, it originated in Mathura, which is in India. Okay, I mean, Gandhara used to be in India as well, but, you know, and then you have, for example, some other scholars who you know, supported the view that it originated in Gandhara. Okay, and the Gandhara Buddha, as you'll see later, has a very different style. Okay, and this is just a kind of some brief characteristics of each of the styles that emerged in Mathura, okay, and Gandhara. Okay, so the Mathura Buddha is more Indian. Okay, I'll tell you about that, more about that later. And it's actually influenced by earlier Indian images. Okay, for example, the yakshas. Okay, and it wears a kind of a diaphanous, very transparent, thin drapery, suited to the Indian climate, you know, made probably of cotton, right? Okay, and it's massive and broad-shouldered. Okay, whereas the Gandhara one, okay, was influenced by classical prototypes. By classical, I mean Greek or Roman. So you can see why, you know, there are two camps, okay, you know, with regard to the origin of the Buddha image. Okay, and it wears a kind of enveloping robe. Okay, it reminds one of the toga that Romans used to wear. Okay, and he has wavy curls of hair tied into a top knot. Right? So stylistically, they are very different. Okay, although in terms of the attributes or lakshanas, Okay, you know, you can see them on, you know, both types of Buddha. Does this look very Western to you? Okay. In fact, I included this, you know, just to, I mean, you know, you can make certain comparisons, okay, between this Gandhara Buddha and the very famous Greek sculpture, okay, the Doryphorus. Okay, well, I mean, the similarities can be seen, for example, in the wavy hair, okay, and also in the features as well, right, especially the facial features. Now, what happened is this, that, you know, when Alexander the Great invaded India, right, I mean, he fought a battle there, right, against King Porus, okay, is that, but he didn't really, you know, conquer India. But what happened was that after, you know, his death, okay, there are some remnants of what you call Hellenized Greek kingdoms in India. Okay, and so as a result, there was probably a community of Greeks living in India. And it's not far-fetched to assume that, you know, the Gandhara image, okay, was first made, okay, by a Western sculptor, okay, right, who, you know, and I mean, that is not far-fetched, right? Or at least it was made by someone who was influenced, okay, by, you know, classical Greek Roman sculpture. Okay, so you see, you know, he wears a very enveloping robe, as I said, like a toga. Okay, he has a halo. Okay, and you know, his hands are broken, but his right hand would have made the gesture of Abhaya Mudra, right? The gesture of fearlessness. And now obviously you see the influence of Mahayana Buddhism here, okay, because you also have the appearance almost at the same time of bodhisattvas, right? Bodhisattvas. Okay, and of course today, you know, you have many other bodhisattvas in the Buddhist pantheon. Okay, I mean, probably the most famous being Avalokiteshvara, right, or Kuan Yin. Okay, and now this particular bodhisattva, now how do you know it's a bodhisattva and not a Buddha?
There's jewelry, more jewelry on the bodhisattva.
Okay, that's obvious, right? Okay, I mean, he is still a man of the world. Okay, he has not achieved nirvana yet, or even enlightenment, right? So he's adorned with worldly, you know, attributes like jewelry. Okay, you know, he even sports a mustache, as you can see, you know. So he looks like a playboy, you know, right? A worldly man, okay, a worldly man at least, right? Okay. So you have the appearance of the bodhisattva here. And again, you know, I mean, in terms of style, you know, again, you'll see the influence of, you know, the Hellenized Greek style, okay, in terms of the facial features and the robe that he wears. Then here you have the other style, which is the Mathuran style. Okay, and on the left, now, firstly on the right, you'll see an image of the Yaksha. Okay, and Yakshas, as I mentioned, are the kind of pre-Buddhist figures, okay, which are, you know, earth or fertility spirits, right? And Yakshas, as you can see, they are very simplified, the form. Okay, it has a kind of a massive, broad, you know, body, right? And you can clearly see the influence of the Yaksha on the Mathuran Buddha or Bodhisattva. Okay, and you know, it's quite different in style from the Gandharan image. Okay, here you don't see anymore the kind of a thick enveloping robe. He wears, as I said, a very thin diaphanous drapery, okay, or sangati, right? Okay, he has a broader shoulder, right, compared to the Gandhara image. Okay, so this is a seated Buddha. Okay, you know, Mathura, right, and again, you know, you see, you know, differences between this and the Gandharan image, right? Very clearly in terms of the facial features, the robe that he wears. Okay, even the top knot. Okay, the Ushnisha is different. Okay, I mean, whereas the the Gandhara Buddha has wavy hairs. Okay, this one, I mean, his hair is rather simplified. It has a top knot on it. Okay, and here the Buddha sits on a lion throne. Okay, you see the at the bottom you'll see two lions there. Right? Now those attributes that I pointed out, okay, the Ushnisha, the Urna is this thing here, what is like a dot. Actually it's originally it was like a whirl or tuft of hair, and then it became simplified into a knot. Okay, the Urna. Okay, it's like the third eye. Okay, that allows sight into the divine world, right? The third eye. Okay, elongated earlobes. Okay, the Sangati, the curls of hair, which also is known as snail shells. Okay, there's this legend where, during a moment when there was when it was blazing hot. Okay, the snails came to Buddha's rescue. Okay, by protecting his head. Okay, from the sun, the blazing sun. Right? As a result, they all died, but in gratitude, the Buddha retained their shells on his head. Okay, so sometimes when you look at some of the Buddha sculptures, right, okay, they have this very curl-like, snail-like sort of, hair. Okay, and of course the mudras and ashanas. Ashanas are of course the kind of yogic posture, right, the leg posture. Okay, you see on these Buddha images. Okay, and there are actually 32. Now these marks are meant to distinguish the Buddha from a normal human being. Okay, so and so the Buddha is regarded not, at least in the eyes of the Mahayanas, right? Okay, he was not a mere mortal, right? So he was different from a mortal human being. Okay, these are some of the gestures. Okay, so you have the the gesture of fearlessness, right, with the palms out, okay, as you saw earlier, and then you also have the gesture of touching the earth, okay, Bhumipasha mudra, okay, where he actually call out the earth goddess to witness his enlightenment, okay, and also the gesture of turning the wheel of the law, okay, Dhammachakra mudra, right, Dhammachakra mudra. And of course the gesture of meditation. Okay, Dhyana mudra. Okay, I'm listing out all the qualities you see. I mean, talking about the Buddha entering nirvana. Okay, and there's the kind of extinction of the earthly form. Okay, I think this particular sculpture best represents, okay, that state of nirvana. Okay, because if you look at it, it's extremely otherworldly, it's transcendent. Okay, I mean, and the sculptor was able to achieve this. All right, for example, in the kind of even the robe that it wears, and only the neck lines, right, is the hem is apparent. Okay, and if you look at the facial feature, the downcast eye, okay, and all of this, contribute to the kind of the inner bliss, right, of the figure. Okay, the kind of the transcendent quality of the figure, right? Okay, so much so that it has become, in a sense, formless, right? It has become formless. Right? So this is, I would say, this is one of the most famous, if not the most famous, Buddha image, right, in the history of art, right? Okay, this particular one from Sanath, okay, and made during the Gupta dynasty in India. Okay, and here you see the Buddha again doing the gesture of turning the wheel of the law, Dhammachakra mudra. And the body itself is also very subtly, okay, smoothly modeled. Okay, so all this contributes to the kind of the formless, the kind of transcendental quality, okay, of this particular Buddha image. Now, from India, Buddhism began to spread, okay, either through missionaries or along the Silk Road, through traders, okay, for example, right? And I believe it first went to Central Asia. Okay, Central Asia is, along the Silk Road, okay, and later on it went to China, and then later on to Korea and Japan, okay, and then later on about the 3rd century AD, right, it went to, it was transmitted to Southeast Asia. Okay, and, and wherever it went, okay, the local artisans or craftsmen, sculptors, adapted the Buddha image to the local conditions. Okay, so, if you look at, for example, a Chinese Buddha, right, or a Cambodian Buddha, you'll see that the face of the Buddha, even the drapery, okay, are different, right? And this particular, this in fact is a famous colossal Buddha. Now, this colossal Buddha started to appear again due to the influence of Mahayana Buddhism, okay, which again saw the Buddha as a kind of a super mundane, superhuman figure, okay. So hence, the Buddha has to take on a kind of a massive scale, a colossal scale, okay. And this particular Buddha can be found in the famous Yongkang, right, caves in China, right. And it was in fact sculpted during the Northern Wei dynasty. Okay. And the Northern Wei rulers were themselves not really Chinese. I believe they also came from Central Asia, right? And and this cave, the grottos, right? Okay, would contain, for example, the cells for the monks, and also there are also paintings and sculptures. Okay, so here you see the colossal Buddha done in a very, I would say, a hybrid style, right? Not an entirely Chinese style. Okay, a hybrid. Okay, Central Asian. Okay, you have a bit of Indian style as well. Okay, and in fact, the feature is also very much, Chinese rather than Indian. Okay. Now, also due to the influence of Mahayana Buddhism, right, you have the appearance, okay, of what is known as the mandala. Okay, the mandala. Right, and the mandala is especially used in this particular branch of Buddhism called esoteric Buddhism. Right, and now this particular mandala, I believe, is from Japan. Okay, and mandalas are normally used as an aid to meditation. Okay, and it serves as a kind of a cosmic diagram. Okay, it maps the Buddhist cosmos, right? And occupying the center, okay, is normally the most important Buddha. Okay, it's either the Dhyani Buddha, the universal Buddha, or it could be Vairochana, right? Vairochana is the Buddha who occupies the central direction. Okay, and this particular mandala, he's also surrounded by 8 bodhisattvas. Okay, and you can see, there are numerous other Buddhas around. Okay, so this is like a Buddhist cosmos. Okay, and what happened is that during worship, the initiate would in fact use this as an aid to meditation, starting from the outside. Okay, and slowly going towards the center. Okay, and as he does that, of course, he also assumes the kind of the power, right, of the Buddha, right, that he's worshipping. Okay, so when you gradually do that, the aim is to achieve enlightenment, right? Okay, through this mandala. Okay, so mandalas are only quite unique to Mahayana Buddhism. Now in Japan, right? In Japan, Buddhism branched out into many other sects, like, as I mentioned, Zen. Okay, and then you have, of course, the Shingon and Tendai, and then I think still the most popular form of Buddhism today is what you call the Pure Land Buddhism. Okay, Pure Land Buddhism. right? And Pure Land Buddhism, is centered on the Buddha called Amida Buddha, the Buddha of the Western paradise. Okay, and one of the finest examples of Amida Buddha, okay, is found in this place called the Byodo Inn, or the Phoenix Hall. It's actually a former palace that was converted into a temple. Okay, and it has a very elegant architecture. Okay, that reminds one of the phoenix, right? Okay, and inside the temple you'll find this very famous sculpture of Amida Buddha. Okay, sculpted by Jocho. Okay, and if you look at the caption, it's actually made of wood. Okay, because the Japanese, invented this technique called the joined wood method. Okay, in which they will make the Buddha from different parts. Okay, hollow out the wood, and then put them together, and they would lacquer them. Right? Now, this prevented the wood, from cracking or splitting. Okay, so as a result, many examples of wooden sculpture survive in Japan. Okay, including this very splendid example. Right? So you see here, if you look at this particular Buddha image, it really conveys a kind of balance and tranquility and calmness, right? Okay, it sits behind a very elaborate mandala, a kind of a leaf-shaped halo, right? And it sits on a lotus throne in a meditative pose, right? And his hands and his fingers are joined together, okay, in a very fine, balance, right? So if you look at it, this Buddha really, sort of transmits or conveys serenity and calmness and tranquility. And in Cambodia, right now in Cambodia, of course, Buddhism reached its peak, during the reign of the Angkor kings, okay, who built some of the most magnificent Buddhist temples, right, in the world, okay, including Angkor Wat, Angkor Thom, right, and the Bayon, right. Now the Bayon, in this particular temple complex, right, you'll find, carved on the face wall, this very enigmatic sort of faces. Okay. And, in Cambodia, they developed this concept of the God King, the Devaraja. Okay, so the Angkor kings were seen as a God King, semi-divine or even divine. Right? So religion became fused with kingship. Right? So many of the Buddha sculptures you see, you find in Cambodia, okay, sometimes has the likeness of the king. Okay. So these faces which appear on the cliffs, right, on the cliff walls, right, we are not sure who they represent. Okay, some speculate that it represents the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, or even the Buddha himself, or even the king himself. Okay, at that time the king was Jayavarman VII, right? Now, as as Buddhism spread as well, to other countries, some countries developed their own iconography. Okay, for example, I don't see many of these figures in India. Okay, where you see the Buddha being protected, okay, by the serpent king Muchalinda. Right. And Muchalinda is a serpent king, right, a naga. Right. And this particular shot is actually taken from ACM, okay, the Asian Civilization Museum. Right, it has this in their collection. And it's actually displayed. Okay. So here you have, but of course the kind of the story itself, the legend, the mythology is Indian. Okay, which tells us that during for 7 days, in fact, the sky darkened, right, and then torrential rain poured down. Okay? And then this the serpent king Muchalinda, right, emerged from the earth and then protected the Buddha. with his hood. Okay, so that's the story. Right? So here you see the Buddha seated, right, on the coils of the serpent. Okay, there are altogether 3 coils, and he said that these 3 coils again represent, okay, the so-called 3 jewels of Buddhism. I mean the Buddha, the law, and the Sangha. Okay, the monastic community. And this is a very arresting and a very unique figure. Okay, the figure of the walking Buddha. Okay, and it's said to be, I mean, you can find a few examples elsewhere, right? But it's in fact a Thai invention. Right? You don't find this, for example, in India. Okay, so in fact, the Thai, with the walking Buddha, the Thai Buddhism, in fact, completes all the poses of the Buddha. You have the sleeping Buddha, right? The walking Buddha, the seated Buddha, right? And it's a very elegant and graceful image. I mean, it reminds one of the dance, right? The kind of classical dance. Okay, right? But and not only that, but if you see that the figure here is walking rather, or striding rather confidently. Okay, confident in the resolute law, right? That he has managed to preach, right? And here again we find, if you look at the right hand, okay, it's kind of hanging down loosely, okay, like the trunk of an elephant, right? And its fingers as well, okay, in fact, is bent backwards, right? Like the petals of a lotus opening, right? And its left hand makes the gesture of Abhaya Mudra, or gesture of fearlessness. Okay, and one distinctive feature you'll find on Thai Buddhas is this flame-like Ushnisha, right? Yes, this flame-like Ushnisha. Okay, and really Buddhism, or Buddhist art rather, reached its peak in Thailand during the Sukhothai, okay, dynasty. Okay, so this is an example of a Sukhothai Buddha. All right, as you can see, very smoothly modeled, right, figure. Now, this is an example of what you call the reclining or the sleeping Buddha. Okay, this is known also by the term called parinirvana. Okay, it depicts the Buddha, okay, when he was approaching death. Right, and this is a very famous example from the Wat Pho temple in Thailand. Okay, and it measures about 150 feet, right, in length. Okay, and its foot itself is made of mother of pearl, right? And if you look at this Buddha, the reclining Buddha is meant again to signify his death and his attainment of nirvana. Okay, hence he's always shown in a very sort of composed, tranquil state. Okay, in a sense, in complete detachment from the world. Okay, so that's the state you achieve when you actually reach nirvana. I'm sure you all, you've seen this, okay, but not in a kind of, in a very good way, right? I mean, this came to, this was featured in the news, right? I think it was what, 2000 and, when did they destroy? I can't remember, right? I think not long after was it before September 11? Okay, but anyway, before, right? Okay, yes, the Taliban, if I'm not mistaken, right? Okay, right, these are okay, this is what they call, what was done here is that, okay, there were 2 of these colossal Buddhas. Okay, they were built in the 6th century, right, in Afghanistan. Okay, in what you call the Bamiyan Valley. Okay, and the tallest one stands about 53 or 55 meters. Okay, and then what happened was that when Afghanistan came under the control of the fundamentalist Muslims. Okay, they decided to destroy okay, these Buddha images, because they represent idolatry. Okay? So, one fine day they decided, well, actually it was not done in one day. In fact, they tried very hard to destroy it, but they couldn't. Okay, because it was carved, you know, on the face of a cliff. Okay, so in the end they had to use dynamites. You know, they tried all sorts of things like anti-tank, you know, missiles and things like that. It didn't work. Okay, so, you know, and it sort of led to the outrage. Okay, I mean everyone was outraged at this this act, right? But in fact, if you look through history, right, this was not the first time that such acts happened. Okay, I mean during my next talk, okay, I'm going to highlight also that it also happens in Christianity, right? When the Byzantine Empire, for example, destroyed some of these Christian icons. Okay, and when the Protestants took over Europe, okay, they did likewise. Okay, so this is what they call iconoclasm, meaning that it's an act of destroying images. Okay, iconoclasm. So certain religions like Islam, for example, is actually iconoclastic, right? Where in fact figures are prohibited. Right? So I suppose an act like this, yes, I mean is a loss to everyone. In fact, right? I mean this is a very good example of an early sort of Central Asian Buddha. Okay, that's now gone. But I think latest report is that they are trying to restore it. Okay, they are using certain methods to try to restore it. Okay, to restore the Buddhas. But there's some again debate regarding this. Okay, for the rest of the time, I'm going to focus on contemporary, so-called, well, if there's such a term, contemporary Buddhist art. Okay, or at least contemporary art that is influenced by the Buddha image or by Buddhism. Okay. And I'm going to focus mainly on Asia, right? And in Asia itself, many artists continue to draw from their own tradition, okay, from their own heritage and their culture. Okay? And Buddhism remained a great source of inspiration. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that anyone who draws from a Buddhist theme is actually religious or pious. Okay? But I would say that these artists in fact appropriate the Buddha image as a critique, a commentary, okay, on what's happening around them, on contemporary politics, okay, on social issues, on rampant consumerism, okay, and on a kind of capitalist exploitation and even globalization, okay, or global homogenization, right? Okay, I'm going to show some examples. This particular work, okay, is a painting by Pratwang. Okay, now Pratwang was a Thai artist, okay, who emerged in the 1970s. Okay, he was the founder of the Dharma group. Okay, now the Dharma group of Thai artists sought to synthesize Buddhism with abstract art. Okay? But some of them also use art, okay, as a form of social political commentary on what's happening in Thailand, okay, on Thai politics. Okay? Now in 1976, this group decided to hold their third exhibition, right? And one day after the exhibition opening, okay, a riot took place. Okay, some university students in fact rioted, and the police came in, and it led to deaths, right? People dying. Okay, and I think maybe a few days after that, right, the exhibition itself was shut down. Okay, it was ordered to be shut down. Okay. And in fact, this was not the first time that the riot happened, right? The first one actually happened in 1973, when also the same group of university students rioted. Okay, and also there were violence and all that, resulting in deaths. And really, I mean, when you want to look at the emergence of activism in Thai art, okay, the early 70s was a period, okay, when all this sort of political turmoil, right, in fact turned Thai artists, right, into activists. Okay, and they use art, okay, as a form of social political commentary. Okay, now this work is very surreal, as you can see. You know, it's entitled Red Morning Glory and Rotten Gun. It reminds one of like you know, one of Dali's work, right? The Persistence of Memory. Okay, where you also have this very bleak, desolate landscape. Okay, and then you have these mysterious beams of light. Okay, that you know makes the desolation even more stark. Okay, and you know the light itself reveals, for example, I don't know, what looks like fallen trees, and then in the background you'll see also skulls, right? Okay, skulls. So in this whole painting, right, you know, you have death all around. Okay, and then on the right you see a Buddha image, but with the head having fallen off. Okay, so I think that's a very powerful statement. Okay, that you know, in the midst of this violence, you know, perhaps religion was, you know, even not spared, right? Okay, so that's a very, I would say, quite a powerful work, right, in terms of making a statement, okay, on what was happening in Thailand at that time. Now, this mural can be found not in Thailand, okay, but in a Wat. W-A-T, Wat is a temple, right? Okay, in Wimbledon, UK. Right. In fact, it's the first ever Thai temple in Europe. And I think it remains one of the few Thai temples, okay, in Europe. And I think what's interesting about this, what makes it so famous, okay, attracting you know, tourists, you know, into its premises are the murals. Okay, the murals that you find in the ordination hall, okay, of the temple. Okay, and these murals were done under the guidance of two teachers, and they got their students to help them, right, starting about the early 1980s. Now, I mean, of course, you know, in order to do this mural, I mean, murals can be found, of course, quite widely in Thailand, in Thai temples. Okay, so of course, the source of inspiration are the traditional Thai murals. But if you look at these murals carefully, you can see why they are so controversial. Okay, because yes, he does. I mean, the murals do talk about Buddhism. Okay, some of the key events in Buddhism. Okay, but he actually used, or rather, the artist actually used, you know, figures and objects from contemporary society. So now this particular, and you can see that the colors are very vivid and very brilliant. Okay, because here the artist actually used spray paint, okay, and acrylic rather than the traditional tempera, okay, that was traditionally used for painting murals. Okay, and this particular mural depicts the episode of which I showed you earlier, right? The attack of Mara. Okay. But here it looks like World War III happening. Okay, you see Mara, you know, and his host, his minions. They're actually carrying different types of weapons. You know, rocket launchers, machine guns. Okay, and on the right you even have a kind of a missile, right? Okay, but on the left you see the Buddha there meditating. You know, right? Undisturbed by all this. Of course, you know, Mara attacked him and wanted to distract him from his from achieving enlightenment. Okay, but yet the Buddha remains unfazed. Okay, he's calm. Okay, of course he has his own celestial host protecting him. Okay. So you can see how contemporary artists, you know, in fact, draws from tradition. Okay, but yet, you know, interpreting it, okay, in very contemporary ways. These are two works by Gongka Gyatso, okay, who is a leading Tibetan contemporary artist. Okay, in fact, he was the one who introduced contemporary Tibetan art to the outside world. Right? And the one on the left was shown quite recently, okay, at a show in the Singapore Museum. You have seen it? Yes, okay. Okay, some of you have seen it. Okay, it's called a collector show, right? And this particular Buddha was displayed there. Okay, and if you look at it, it's a Buddha. It's a Buddha figure. Okay, but what is so unusual is that it is actually plastered with layers upon layers of stickers. Okay, so the artists have actually turned the Buddha from a religious icon to a pop icon. Right, and Gyatso's work frequently deals with things like identity politics and also the effects of globalization. Okay, so we can see here, how perhaps the effects of globalization, mass media, popular culture, right, had affected Buddhism, and in fact turned popular culture into a kind of religious icon instead, right? And on the right is quite a similar work, but instead he actually uses gridded pencil lines, right, to depict the Buddha. And it's also filled with stickers, but those stickers are actually from one particular character, the Pokemon. The Pokemon, the popular Japanese anime, right? Yes, that's why it's called the Pokemon Buddha. Okay, so you see, artists like Gyatso, very much, also, you may find that these works are perhaps a bit irreverent, okay, or sacrilegious, but actually it's not true, because some of these artists are actually, they are practicing Buddhists, and they use the Buddha, in fact, as the Buddha image as a catalyst, okay, to talk about certain social and political issues. Gyatso is now based, he's actually based, he's shuttling between Beijing, London, New York, but this particular artist, Gede, right, or Gede, he actually he's based in Tibet. Okay, but his works also, talks about the effects of globalization, okay, on religion. Okay, so in this series it's called 5 New Buddhas. Okay, but you can only recognize the, at the center one, right, the Buddha image. Okay, whereas the others are replaced by popular, okay, characters from popular culture like Batman and Spider-Man, Mickey Mouse. Okay, because and as Gede himself said, if you go to Tibet today, we think of Tibet as a very mysterious, exotic place, but actually it's not. Okay, there's there are fast food chains, rock music, okay, nightclubs, right? Okay, and all that you'll find in Tibet. Right? And he also recounted one time when he went to a village, a remote village in the Himalayas, and he found that children there carry school bags with Mickey Mouse, sort of images, and drinking Coca-Cola and all that. Okay, and talking about irreverence, he has come in defense, and he said that the responsibility of the artist goes beyond creating beautiful things. I just say what I believe. Okay, and he said the Buddhist gods would understand, right? Okay, what he's doing. Okay, this is a work by Kalidas Jayaraman. In fact, Kalidas is just sitting behind. Kalidas, okay, he's the artist there. In fact, Kalidas was. I actually requested an image from him to show. He's one of my former students from LaSalle, right? I think more than 10 years ago. In fact, he graduated, and Kalidas is now teaching in a secondary school. He's an art teacher, right? And the Buddha image, in fact, has formed an integral part of his artistic practice. Right? In this particular work, right, you see that the head of the Buddha, in fact, dominates the whole canvas. Okay, and he uses a particular technique where he actually paints on linen. Okay, and the effect that you see there, right, the kind of worn-out effect, okay, is achieved by painting on the linen or the fabric and then, you know, ripping it off, right? Okay, so that's, you know, and the Buddha head appears to sort of emerge from the background, you know, I mean, it appears that way, you can look at it that way. Okay, now in the foreground, you have a monk, a novice monk, right? And the novice monk there is he's studying the scripture, okay? And you know, again, I was told that, you know, there's a kind of underlying message, right, in this picture, okay, which is you know, especially in the society in which we live in. I mean, pointing out specifically to Singapore, right, where, you know, the education system is so stressful, you know, where everyone competes to getting the top grade, okay, which they think is an avenue to getting the best job. Right? And as a result, you know, teachers are stressed and all that, including Kalidas, right? And so, you know, but so this image of the boy monk studying the scripture is that, you know, in pursuit of all this, you know, to get the best grades, okay, we have probably lost sight of the true knowledge, okay, whatever that true knowledge might be. In this case, right, is a kind of spiritual knowledge. Okay? The true knowledge might be more important things than just getting good grades, for example. Right? So I suppose this work, you know, speaks of a, you know, a kind of a deeper sort of meaning or message. Now this work, if you have gone to the ACM, Rachel, you know this work, I believe. Okay? They probably guided it, you know. Yes, it's in fact acquired by the Asian Civilizations Museum, although it's a contemporary work, right? And it's by this Thai artist called Jakai, and I think, I'm not sure, okay, I was sent an email, okay, that Jakai is going to have a solo show here, right? It's going to be held at Yavuz Gallery in Waterloo Street, right? And so, now Jakai is one of the leading Southeast Asian artists working with textile, okay, working with textile. And here, you know, you see this work. It's an installation work, right? And it comprises, you know, multitudes of Buddhas, okay, in the sitting position, right? And the Buddhas themselves are made out of hemp, H-E-M-P. Hemp, I think, is from the cannabis plant, right? Okay, but it's made into a kind of industrial material. Okay, and the threads themselves are also made of hemp. So as a whole, right, it forms a pyramid. Okay, and actually it's not a pyramid, it actually refers to a stupa. Okay, a Buddhist stupa. Now the stupa itself, you know, the shape of the stupa in fact was transformed as it went to different countries. Okay, so for example in Thailand, okay, the stupa, you know, becomes a very, you know, shaped like a bell, right? Okay, and but you know, what is he trying to say here? What is there an underlying sort of message, you know? Now, if this is a stupa, right, I mean, it allows us, in fact, to look at the inside, okay, which normal stupas don't normally let us do, okay? So by doing that, I think the artist is trying to ask us to rethink, okay, perhaps about the role of Buddhism today, in today's contemporary society, right? Okay, what does the stupa mean today? Or what does it mean to certain people, all right? Okay. Right. Now this is a photograph, in fact, right? It's a photograph of done by a contemporary Chinese artist, okay, Wang Jingsong, right? And now this, you know, work was done in 1999, right? It was, I think, the year, right, the period when the Chinese economy was, you know, really picking up, okay, and when, you know, a kind of symbols of consumerism, okay, were sort of, you know, entering China. Okay, so you see this artist, you know, it's like a self-portrait. Okay, seated not on a lotus throne or a lion throne, he's seated on a Coca-Cola throne, and he has multiple arms. Now, this is not exactly, you know, he takes on the role of not the Buddha, but the Bodhisattva, Avalokiteshvara. Okay, who's normally depicted with multiple arms. Okay, and in his arms or in his hands, you'll find that he carries, various consumer products, okay, handphones and what else? Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, and in his other hand, he carries a bottle of Nanjing beer, right? Okay. Okay, so instead of, I suppose here he's trying to, in fact, comment on the state of society. Okay, in that, that in fact we care more for these consumer products than we care, for example, for the poor or the suffering. Okay, so that could perhaps be the kind of message that he wants to convey, all right, through this work. Now I'm sure some of you know the name called Vasant Siddique, right? If not, then you have to be acquainted with his name because he's really one of the most famous Thai contemporary artists today, right? But if you're acquainted with Vasant Siddique's work, okay, you know that he can also be very, very direct and very candid, right, in his paintings, okay, and he is actually more, today he has become more of an activist than an artist, okay, and he's always protesting against what he perceives as injustices. Okay, this can be, for example, capitalist exploitation of the rich over the poor. Okay, it could be commentary on Thai politics, right, on political corruption, okay, etc. So in this work, he appropriates the image of the walking Buddha. And surrounding, you can see vignettes of other scenes there, okay, and you'll notice, for example, a figure that looks like the former Prime Minister, Thaksin, okay, and you can see that, Thaksin has a kind of, is engaging in some sexual act with a prostitute, okay, and holding a bag of money, okay, on his left hand. And you'll see other things, the red shirts, remember the red shirts versus the yellow shirts, right? So street protests, you'll see here as well. You'll find somewhere also renegade monks, engaging in sexual acts, right? Right. So he's actually exposing, the realities of Thai politics and Thai life, right? And he makes no bones about it in his work, right? He's very direct, okay, very brutal. Okay, that's a brutal truth that he's trying to convey. Okay, well, we have just two more to go. Now this work is by the Korean contemporary artist Ata Kim. Okay. Ata Kim, I think he works primarily with photograph. Okay, but I'm going to show you one of his other works later. Okay, which actually is like a sculpture or installation work. Now, if you look at this work, immediately you think that, wow, it's a blasphemous image. Here what you have is actually a woman, okay, a naked woman, okay, and she's clean shaven, right, to make her appear like a monk, I suppose, and she's seated on a lotus throne, right, and she's seated on top of the roof of a house in Seoul. Okay, but what is she doing up there, right? This image looks really out of place, right, in all this these high-rise apartments, okay, the antennas that you see there, okay, and I think the antennas are really a metaphor for, the kind of mass media, right, okay, we are exposed to today, right. So perhaps in this work, Ata Kim is, warning us against the kind of the effects of rapid urbanization, right, okay, and you see that especially in a place like Korea. Okay, and also how it's perhaps affecting, okay, religious ideals or beliefs. Right? And Ata Kim recently, this is 2 years ago, where he actually created a work out of ice. It's about 5.5 feet. Okay, the whole work is about 1,300 pounds, made entirely of ice. okay, and then it's placed on top of a pool of water. Okay, and what happens is that, of course, the ice would melt away. Okay, and it would take several days for the ice to melt away. Eventually, of course, it did. Okay, now as the ice melted away, the audience is encouraged to touch the ice, okay, and also to take away the water. Okay, so they are provided containers, you can see that. You can take it home. And in fact, you are asked to water your plant with that water. Okay, and this is an act of, a cycle of renewal, all right, according to Atakim. Okay, so this work itself, is a beautiful illustration of the Buddhist concept of impermanence. Okay, that things are in a constant state of flux, right? Okay, there's no, there's no kind of fixed nature or essence or even being, okay, or even of emptiness, right? So eventually the whole image would just melt away. Right? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just to show you a short clip, okay, of this work. Ready? Oh, okay. I think that's about it. Hello? Yes, that's it for today.